So hello folks, welcome back to the channel, and we're moving on with the T-55 African Union build by looking at the base and constructing a base for the finished tank to sit on. So you'll see on your screen now these images. These are all dragged away from Google and are shop fronts essentially in Mogadishu, Somalia, which is where we want the vehicle to be. So as we can see, the kind of style is this quite rudimentary hand painted sign writing, images, etc. Now, doing a bit of research, the reason that the images are on there is because a lot of the population in Somalia are illiterate. They can't read and write. So what they tend to do is put these images of what it is on the front of the shop to kind of explain what it is in sort of pictorial form. So that's what we're going to try and replicate, is to do a kind of shop front, which the tank will then sit in front of. So without further ado, let's go down to the bench and let's get cracking and see if we can create something similar to this. Okay folks, so we're down at the bench. I have done this off camera. So what this is a piece of foam board that I then covered in a textured paint. So I cut these holes out, covered in textured paint, and then scribed in some of these sort of brickwork, showing through what would be the plaster, and then painted it in, this was a model colour, sky blue, which kind of is nice and bright, but still some of the grey showing through, and it's been primed in grey primer from Ultimate Modelling Products. So this is going to form the basis of the kind of shop front that we're going to try and construct. So for those of you that don't know what foam board is, it's this stuff. It comes in A4, A3, A2 sheets, very cheap, and it comes with this kind of smooth paper almost, but you can remove that, which is what I've done here. And what that allows you to do is, with a sharp blade, it will allow you to sort of carve in shapes, bricks, that sort of stuff. Really, really simple. And that's how I did the brickwork on the bit we've done. It's very easy to cut through, as you can see. And also, top tip, if you can get from sort of eBay, Amazon, a set of these, which are dentist tools essentially, they're very, very cheap. I think this was about £8 for the set. Comes in this faux leather wallet. I don't think they're sort of surgical grade dentist tools at all. I think they're sort of cheap copies. However, what they do allow you to do, if you're doing this sort of stuff on either XPS foam or whatever, they allow really good sort of carving. They come in all shapes and sizes, and they're really, really effective and really good tools for this sort of thing. So if you can get yourself a set of those, it's a good investment. So that's foam board. I appreciate it's out of sort of vogue at the minute, and everyone's using XPS foam, which I use as well, which I'll show you. But for this shop front, it's ideal. Some cocktail sticks just shoved into the bottom. Means we can hold it with those without worry of damaging anything we've painted or whatever. And also, once we come to put it on the base, it will allow us to position it and give it some stability. So as you can see, with the ruler next to it, sort of just over 15 centimeters or 150 mil in width, and we're going for about 100 mil, 10 centimeters in height, which will be ideal. Now, also off camera, what I've done is I've started constructing the base. So this is just XPS foam, some offcuts. Cut this with a hot wire cutter. We've got this kind of rectangular shape. This is the floor, or going to appear to be the floor of our shop. So that's just a bit of cork sheet, PVA glue, cut to the same dimensions as the base and stuck in place. This is going to be our road surface, so that's just a piece of sandpaper that's cut and shaped, and then we're going to have some sort of sandy ground here in front of the shop itself, and the shop will just slide in there. We'll probably put some sort of step here in the door. I've got some bits that I'll show you in a bit for the windows and the top there above the door, some sort of air brick. And then we'll put some veneer around the base, get it all painted, get it sprayed, and then the tank will sit in front of that. So the first thing we need to do is get this kind of shop front done. So I'm going to hand paint it basically. And just put some signage and that sort of stuff on it. I think I'm going to go for maybe like a restaurant, so we'll put a bowl of food on it, all that sort of stuff. And then we'll weather this brickwork so it looks like it's more natural. I've gone for kind of that breeze block type construction on that with this plasterwork over the top. We'll weather it a little bit, put the windows in, which I'll show you. And that's about it. So the next thing I need to do really is just put some signage on this and make it a bit more colourful, a bit more visually interesting. For the door itself, I'm not going to bother putting an actual door on it. What I have done is just using some normal thin paper is created these sort of drapes, which on the reference pictures, as you would have seen, are quite common. They don't fit the whole width of the door from the reference pictures. They kind of fit just in there like so. So we'll get those painted and weathered, and that will just hang down in the doorway. We're not doing any sort of interior for this. We're just doing a facade of a shop or restaurant or whatever we decide to do with it. So that's it. That's very, very basic. Basically it's a rectangle with some rectangles cut out of it. That's all it is. It's so simple. And then we'll put some signage on it. We'll probably use Model Colour and Citadel for the brush painting, and I'll speed the video up. You don't need to see all that, and get that done and get it to how we want it to look. So I'll come back once that's done. I'm happy with how it looks, and then we'll move on to some weathering, I think. See you in a minute. Okay then, so it's very, very rudimentary, but that kind of mimics the images that we saw at the beginning of the video. So I'm kind of happy with that as it stands, but obviously we need to add some depth to it, some weathering, and we want to bear in mind the way we weathered the T-55 and the tracks and stuff. We want to keep along that theme. We want this kind of dusty, yeah, dusty, sandy type weathering, rather than sort of heavy streaking and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to start off on the actual bricks themselves, because they need sort of making a bit more realistic, I guess is the way. So we're going to use some Carrick stone from Citadel. So we're gonna attempt to kind of edge highlight these, and then we're gonna use some pigment to try and fill in the gaps, really. So we get some Carrick stone, we remove the most of it from the brush, as we've done throughout the series, and we're just kind of going over the top. Now, whether that's going to pick that up on camera, I'm not sure, because it's very subtle, but it does start to give some depth to the bricks, to the breeze blocks, and we're just going all around the edges to try and make them give it a bit more depth. So whether that actually picks that up, hopefully it does. So yeah, and then we'll do this area here, and we'll do exactly the same, concentrating on the edges to try and give it a bit more depth. Super. And then what we've got here is where the plaster's kind of been damaged, broken, so we'll put a little bit in there, just in circular motions around there. Obviously, I've added the rudimentary Somali flags, which I think just adds a bit to it, really. So then we're going to go with a Shabti Bone, Old Faithful, which is a lighter brown, dusty colour. And again, we're going to dry brush that onto the edges of these bricks, like so. And hopefully now what we're getting is a little bit more depth, which is the plan. So I've been looking at some more reference pictures as well, and I think we're going to go for a sort of a corrugated iron panelled roof on this. That's going to be the idea. And again, around this damaged concrete, we'll just add a little bit in there to kind of highlight that a little bit. Job done. So now what we're going to use, the first colour is we're going to use from Ultimate Modelling Products. We're going to use their sand pigment, and hopefully this will act as like a mortar in between the bricks or the breeze blocks. So we just straight from the UMP pot, as we just sort of blend that in like so. And straight away you can see hopefully how that's working, as like a mortar in between the actual bricks. Like that. So we're just using a flathead paintbrush, and putting that in there. Now, what we need to do now is get a Q-tip or cotton bud, depending where you are in the world, moisten it slightly, and where we've got the surface of the bricks, just go in, leaving it in the gaps, and it has stained some of the brickwork as well, which is fine, and just kind of blend that in like so. So we've got this kind of mortar effect now in the bricks, and that's all we need to do for the bricks. So I'm going to do the same on this side here with this little brickwork patch here, and then what we're going to do is come back in and weather the whole thing and try and create it a bit more dusty before we add the windows and the air bricks and all that sort of stuff. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so what we've done is done the bricks with the sand, the UMP sand pigment, to give them some depth. And then we've used UMP sand pigment just around the bottom and just blended that in to the plaster, which gives it sort of this dusty effect at the bottom of the building. So I think that looks quite effective. So now what we need to do is just add some sort of dust effects to the rest of it really, and blend it all together. So again, we're going to start off with Zandri dust, which was the color that we used on the tracks and the tank, etc. So we want to try and make it as uniform as we can, using a nice wide flathead brush. And what we're going to do is we'll start from the top and just in almost circular motions, just blending that in over the top like so. And what you can see is it dirties up that blue. The blue's still very much there, but it just kind of dirties it up a little bit, because these things obviously are in Somalia. It's very dusty. It's not going to be pristine at all. So we're just circular motions all over the blue, down into where the pigments are, and just blend it all together. To your eye, really, there's no right or wrong way of doing this. Weather is different, you know. One street might be heavily dusty, one might not be. You don't know. So it's to your eye, to what you like, what you think looks kind of like you've pictured it in your head, using reference pictures and that sort of stuff. And as soon as you're happy, stop. And I think that's looking now a lot more natural, a lot more like we want it to. So last but not least, Old Faithful of Shabty Bone, which is obviously the light colour. And again, we're just going to dry brush that over the top, starting from the top, like so. And again, in these circular type strokes, and just get it all blended in, get it looking lovely, lovely and weathered, dusty, dirty. And it really is as simple as that, guys. So there I've just put normal paint on. That's not a dry brush as such. And then we just feather that over the top and down into where we've got that sand pigment. And I think we're pretty much where we need to be for now. So that will do for that. So that's our shop front. We need to add obviously the drapes over the door, and we'll put some colour in there, probably some reds and greens and whites maybe, just to make it pop a little bit. And then what we'll do is we'll add the windows and the air bricks. Yeah, So let's move on. Okay, so air bricks and window frames. So looking at reference pictures, most of the Somali sort of buildings that we saw at some location on the front, they have these sort of air bricks. I'm guessing air conditioning is a very much a luxury there due to their economy and all that sort of stuff. So they have these kind of air bricks. So I was originally going to try and construct these out of sort of styrene sheet and tubing and all that sort of stuff. However, a very good friend of mine, Mr. Stuart Goodsman, who's one of our admins, he's a whiz on a 3D printer, both on CAD and the printer themselves. So he's printed me these air bricks and also printed these sort of great style window frames, which we'll do in like a rusty metal finish. But this one we'll probably do in sort of a white or green, lime green color. They're measured perfectly, so they will just slot in. Obviously that will then sit flush with the building, slight recess like so. So I'll get those painted off camera. They'll be primed probably in UMP grey, and then painted and weathered, but they will work marvelously. So that will give us a bit more detail on it, and we'll get the drapes painted off camera as well. As I say, it doesn't really matter what colour you choose. I'll probably go for sort of reds and greens maybe, or maybe some yellow, and we'll get that done. So that's the shop front, and as I say, what will happen then is that we'll just slot into the base itself once everything's attached and glued and all that sort of stuff. So that's the shop front. Moving on is coming together, dead simple, no rocket science. And then we've got the base itself. So we've got this roadway, we've got this kind of sidewalk pavement area. So if I put that in just temporarily with the toothpicks like so. So what we need to do is think about the colour of this flooring, which we'll probably do in sort of a light grey colour, sort of a concrete stone floor to the building. And then we'll put some sort of step in there. Now I had a little play, again with a little piece of foam board that will just sit in that sort of position. Now I need to think about this area. My initial thought is to do it in just sort of a sand, dusty side of the road, and I think that's what we'll probably do with that, and put the step in and all that sort of stuff, and paint this light grey, and then the road sort of a tarmac, dark grey colour. So we'll move that out of the way. That's our shop front, which is looking lovely. And then we're basically, all we've got to do then is frame it, you know, around the sides, tidy all that up, at the back as well where the building is, and then make a roof for it. So that's it for part one of the base. Off camera, I'm going to prime this entire thing in probably UMP black. There is a coat of PVA on there, but what that will do with the acrylic primer, as I've said before in previous videos, it will provide a layer. So then whatever we put on top of this doesn't matter. It won't erode the XPS foam. So we'll do that. We'll get that all in black. We'll let obviously the pigments and everything dry on the shop front. And then we'll come back in part two of the basing video where we'll start to kind of get some color on the base. The air bricking window frames I'll do off camera, and hopefully we start to get it together, and I'll show you how I'm going to do the corrugated iron roof, etc. And that's it really, and then our tank will sit in front of this building. That's the plan. So thank you very much for watching. Go and check out umpretail.com. Go and check out emodels.co.uk. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button for upcoming videos, and hit that bell notification so you get told when one is released. And until next time, stay safe, happy hobbying. Bye bye.